Welcome to the Bronx Cheer Basketball Show. I am your host, Nathan Callanan, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jack Lynch. We're coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where it is currently 10:51 a.m. on Monday, the 11th of January, 2021, JL. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It's been a little while since we've spoken.
I know it's been a bit of a hiatus, but we'll pretend like it didn't happen.
Always the way.
On today's show, as I just mentioned, we haven't spoken since even the NBA season started, and we're a good 10 games at least in, a good three or 4 weeks in at least. So we're going to talk about all the positive players, the negatives, surprise, teams, everything. Just everything to go with the start of the season, and it's going to be a good one, I think. Hopefully, JL.
Hopefully, yeah. Can't guarantee much at this stage. It might be a bit out of touch.
It's time for tip-off. Once again, welcome to the Bronx Cheer Basketball Show. I'm joined by a guy who did not miss this podcast due to personal reasons. JL, how are you?
I'm better than a lot of the NBA players, that's for sure.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so it is, as I said, it's Monday our time. It's Sunday night US time. And the Celtics and Heat game has been postponed because of COVID protocols. The Celtics have no players. Avery Bradley was going to have to miss as well for the Heat, which is weird because I just feel like he's a Celtic in my mind.
He said he's still a Celtic as well.
There you go.
So you're not the only one thinking that. And
it's been a week, I guess, for our teams with the Sixers riddled with these COVID protocols. They're happening more and more. It seems like they just keep stacking on each other. The Rockets kicked it off with, was it John Wall and Cousins, and they all got a haircut or something? What was that story at the start of the season?
I can't even keep up anymore, Nafe. There's just so much. It's too regular. It's a common occurrence. Like every day you wake up and it's like, what player's missing today? What team's shorthanded today?
Yep. And Kevin Durant, I think, is playing today after having a week out due to COVID protocols. Kyrie Irving has also missed about a week and is not playing today due to personal reasons. I know I've sort of just had a laugh there, and I know everyone's bagging him. And I know I just want to say there's been the rumor of his quotes to Steve Nash, the Nets coach. But I want to get in early and say, JL, I'm always a benefit of the doubt guy, unless you're some murderer, like convicted felon.
Yeah.
And I know Kyrie Irving's no innocent when it comes to being crazy, but I feel like, I was thinking he just doesn't ever want to play when KD's out. He feels like that's what I was gathering. But today, KD's back and he's still not back. So
if he played today, it's too obvious. If your theories are right, he's got to give it one more game and make it look, take the suspicion out of it.
Yeah. See, I also thought of that, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there is something happening at home. That's one thing. I mean, he's one of the biggest advocates of. People just forget that they're just players. That they're humans. They're not just players. So I'll give Kyrie the benefit of the doubt. However,
he's walking on not walking on eggshells, I suppose, but it's getting a bit to almost like boy cried wolf, where it's just happening so regularly, where every season there's something. Not even every season, every few months there's something. And fair enough, if there is stuff going on, by all means. But the fact that he was, and this is only speculated, but I think Steve Nash kind of admitted, this is what happened, but not talking to any of the assistant coaches, not talking to Nash about why he was missing the game. They just knew he wasn't playing. So I don't know who he told within the organization, but the coaching staff had no idea why. And I think no matter what you've got going on, at least be professional about it to communicate it to, your co-workers and your place of employment.
Yeah, that would allude to he's just being immature Kyrie. So who knows what's going on, but moving on, let's talk about some injuries. Unfortunately, TJ Warren early on, we haven't because we haven't spoken about it. He went out and he's out indefinitely after a foot injury, and I think he's got to have surgery. Spencer Dinwiddie also did his ACL. Markel Fultz.
That sucked for the Nets.
Yeah, it did.
Because that first week and a half, they had 2 weeks, all cylinders firing. And it's definitely, I guess, not the wheels are falling off, but they've definitely slowed down.
Yeah.
You know, that first game, I was like, shit, they're winning the championship.
Yeah.
So it was the biggest overreaction so quickly, but they looked incredible. And just as soon as he's coming out of the lineup, plus the, KD and Kyrie things, but don't know, they just don't seem like they've got that depth anymore that they had in that opening week.
Still very early, but as you said, they started so hot and just apart from like their record, they looked amazing, as you said. They're currently sitting 9th on the Eastern Conference table. That just shows you how the rest of their last few games have gone. So yeah, Dinwiddie, let's talk about it for just a second. Dinwiddie going down for the whole season doesn't mean that they are not a championship contender. No. However, you'd say their case against the Lakers, let's just go, it's them, is a bit more real depth. We all know that Montrezl Harrell might get a bit found out in the playoffs. I don't want to jump too early, but we all know
Imagine a KD Kyrie pick and roll with Montrezl trying to defend that.
Yeah, that's right.
He's not going to be playing many minutes.
And so the Nets' depth, which definitely included Spencer Dinwiddie and all their competent players, is their championship case, their campaign. And Dinwiddie goes down. They just have less of those players. So thoughts on, I guess, how big is that for the Nets? Is it huge or is it just sort of,
Well, it is big. And he was starting with them and he was playing well. And he's also someone that could run the floor when KD and Kyrie were off the floor. But what might be even bigger is it pretty much eliminates all chance of them getting Harden, which we don't actually know.
Yeah.
We don't know if that was ever going to fulfill itself. But if there's no Dinwiddie involved in a trade, because why would Houston take Dinwiddie now when he's 28 coming off ACL, where he's never been an all-star, he's never been an elite player. So it's not like the Nets maxing KD when you know how good he has been, you take that risk. You don't give up James Harden for an torn ACL, Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert.
Yeah.
So the fact that now that's completely off the table in my mind, that might be more influential than Dinwiddie himself not playing.
And while we're on that, let's just talk just quickly. I mean, it's totally gone out of the news. And I think it's going to stay like this. I just reckon Harden staying this season.
Me too now.
We had never seen someone when they've got 2 years left on their contract be like, get me out. And here's the reason. Because they don't have to. Yes, they've got a lot of leverage right now, the Rockets, in this trade window. But you sort of feel like with the weirdness that's happening this season and the injuries and the uncertainty, and there is a whole nother trade window after this one, the Rockets can just wait and have a lot of leverage next window. And I'm happy because you do not want players with 2 years left on their contract. One is enough. 2 years left on their contract asking out. And this is a good lesson to everyone. You got to think that Harden's staying for this season.
And I think the more he plays, and I haven't watched all that many Houston games, but that first game he came out and dropped like 40 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that week he was a bit, not lackluster, but just sort of playing the way he plays. And he was standing off ball, not doing much else. But I think the more I've watched him, the trust in Wall's grown, the trust in Christian Wood's grown. And he seems to be doing the things he was doing back in OKC or his first 2 years in Houston, where he was moving off the ball a little bit more. And it's like maybe he is kind of enjoying this team and thinks we're half a chance here.
Yeah. Well, if John Wall stays healthy, I believe he's a good enough player to do Houston things. And just quietly, you know, John Wall, Christian Wood, and if Boogie Cousins stays healthy coming off the bench, they've got some real experienced, you know, good players that can just collectively take them to at least, you know, Houston standards of the top 5 of recent years. Because Harden has the ball for 500% of each game.
Yeah.
And when he's got the ball, you are going to be a good team. So I guess it looks like Harden's staying. More injury news just this morning. Thomas Bryant for the Washington Wizards, who currently sit on the bottom of the East. Is it the league? 2-8. You would say yes. Their percentage is 0.200. Yep, they have the worst win percentage in the league. And Thomas Bryant has just gone down with an ACL. He will be out for the whole season. What is going on with the 2-8 Wizards that I put in the playoffs? I put them in 8th.
It's not too dissimilar to last year. Their offense is incredible. They just cannot defend anything. Like
a parked car. They can't defend a parked car.
Yes, as Bradley Beal put it. I mean, you got to get Beal out of there. I felt when I was watching Boston and Washington the other game, I just felt so bad for him. He put up 41 and it was effortless, and he's getting the ball in all sorts of positions, and he's using the triple threat, and he's scoring at will. And, you know, you think, they're a chance here. You know, Beal's had a tough 3 and a step back long 2, and he's hit them both. And then he'd pass the ball up, and Ish Smith would run a fast break and hit the bottom of the ring on the layup. Like, he's just got no help. And I feel for him. I honestly think the whole time, I'd love to see him in Boston because he's such a talented scorer.
Yeah.
I think that'd sort of fit what Boston are looking for that sort of third piece. But yeah, just get him anywhere. I think Miami, there's been rumors there, but I don't know. The Wizards are just shit. They've got no one. But genuinely, other than Beal, they've got no one that's an NBA starter caliber sort of thing.
Interesting to see what happens now with Thomas Bryant out, because even though he's no, you know, like superstar, he's their starting center and he's sort of up and coming. But still, they got Beal and Westbrook, and having Westbrook and Beal, as much as I hate Westbrook, I thought that would be the recipe to get them to 8th.
Yeah. Jeez, the Westbrook looked awful the other night.
If Westbrook...
he looked awful.
If they can't, even with Bryant out, if they can't get to 8th in this Eastern Conference, I can't come up with anything right now, but I will forever, like, I'm going to disregard and discount, like, Westbrook's all-star appearances. If he can't get this team to 8th in the East...
he's just not the player he once was. And I think partly it's his athleticism's declined slightly. Not a lot, but slightly. His jump shots lost him completely.
Oh, my God.
His free throw shooting's gone because when they changed the rules, you can't leave the circle between free throws. His free throws percentage dropped by like 20 percentage points. That just fell apart. And I think also part of it, he's just been found out.
Yeah.
Kind of the way that Siakam's been found out. These people know how to defend him now, and it's taken the league 10 years to work out Westbrook. But now it's like, just give him space and make him shoot.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
That's it. Talking about Siakam, before we I know we're going to really get into it and stuff like that, but we did our predictions last pod. We do apologize for not coming to you for the last 3 weeks or so. My fault. I gave us a couple of weeks off, and I have another podcast that I meant to have uploaded by now, but it just didn't get to happening. You know how the holidays go, JL.
I do.
Too many.
We deserve a break as well.
That's it. So, and on that podcast, we did hot takes, and one of mine was that, let me just mention that Siakam would not improve this season to any eye test. And I stick with that. That has happened. But let's
Without a
go.
doubt.
Let's go even a podcast that was uploaded, the last one, where I said that the Toronto Raptors are going to slide this season. And gosh, everything in these standings is like exactly what I said would happen, apart from, some early season, whatevers. Like obviously Denver, who have started 4-5, are going to get up there. And Portland, who I had marked down and had a bad start to the season, are in a sixth. They're not even doing that bad. But the Toronto Raptors are 2-6. 2-6.
It's tough to watch them at the moment.
They're bad. They're so bad.
Fred VanVleet, though, he's actually playing up to his contract, and he's the only one that's got any sort of positivity around him. But everyone else, even your man, the big Aaron Baines, who you saw drop, 37 was it?
37, most by an Australian.
But he's looking sluggish. It's all going wrong for the Raptors at the moment.
They have a guy by the name of, is it Norman Powell? Yeah, Norman Powell.
Yeah.
He has been terrible. I haven't loved, of course, Siakam's output. That's why I know that Boucher had a bit of a good game the other day, but in general, this team, you just look at this roster. The Raptors roster always is a bit like, it's always like, what is it? But their coaches or I don't know, seem to get them to the second seed in the East every year. And I'm happy, I don't know if this is just a bad start, but I'm happy to say, as I predicted, this is not the year.
Calling it early. He's calling it early.
Calling it early because there's too many good teams or good enough teams in the East to have a shitty roster and just get your coach to take you to the second seed. The Raptors are in big trouble. Let's talk about, haven't even gotten to any of the notes yet, but let's talk about what have you thought of the Charlotte Hornets and LaMelo Ball? And
LaMelo's impressed me, actually.
Yeah, he's been good.
I was in the sort of, I didn't think he'd be a bust per se, but I didn't buy into the hype, is one way to put it, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I really questioned his jump shot, which there's still a lot of questions about it. There's games where he's 4 from 3 and others where he's, 1 for 6. So there's no real consistency there. But his passing's been as advertised. He's already, verging on an elite passer. So he's got the flashy passes as well, which will, be on Sports Center and we'll get, House of Highlights on Instagram posting it. But just the way when he's on the wing, he's so good at the cross court into the corner pass and things like that, which is not an easy feat at all. So yeah, he's impressing me. There's a few. Terry Rozier's been all right. Devontae Graham is having a shocking season. I think he's one of the few players that have shot more times than they've scored points.
Yeah.
Which, for someone who played so well last year, averaging almost 20 a game, he finished the season on 18 points a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a disappointment. But overall, 5-5, you'd take that right now if you're a Hornets fan.
Yeah, and you've got to have them in the mix. I mean, currently, there's a couple other teams we can sort of talk about the surprising mix. The Knicks are 5-4, are sitting in 6th in the East. The Cavs are 5-5, and that's slowly disintegrating, I believe.
I love this Cavs team for some reason. And what did they start, 5-2?
Yeah, something like that.
Or 4-2 or something like that. So I was like, here we go. Sexland is happening.
Sexland.
It's slowly coming crashing down.
Well, talking about that first half of that, Colin Sexton, in his third year, has started 25 points per game, which is 5 points above last season. He's putting up more steals, slightly more assists. He's shooting 51% from 3 on 4 attempts. And his minutes have gone up by 4 minutes. Very small sample size, only 8 games, but he's looking to be, you see quotes before the season starts on every player. I saw one or two that Colin Sexton...
He's lost 20 pounds, but also put on 10 pounds of muscle for every player in the league. And he's also grown 3 inches.
Yeah. And I don't know who I saw say that Colin Sexton, is the real deal, one of the quotes. And it looks like it's going well for him. And he's been maybe the biggest reason for the Cavs' good start. However, it does seem to be evening out as time goes on. Part of that sort of fight, and I guess in the same category, I know they've had tough games, but the Chicago Bulls, I've listed them here as I want to keep watching them. When you said to me 2 podcasts ago that Patrick Williams, the man that they just drafted with their highest pick, looks a bit like Kawhi Leonard, one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
Of course, I had to go and watch him and
check him out.
And just before we jumped on, the Bulls played the Clippers, and you're very right. Like their bodies move the same, they defend the same.
And the way he moves, it's slow in a way. Like Kawhi, I mean, he's quick on the fast break and he's got that quick first step, but he doesn't need to use it. He just sort of like dissects the defense and gets to where he wants and puts up that midi. And that's what I've seen from Williams. So
yeah,
I hate when people get too obsessed with comparisons when people come into the league, but that's one that from day one I'm like, oh shit, we've got a little claw in our hands.
And I don't know if it's just a grey patch, but have you seen Patrick Williams? His hair. Sorry about this, Patrick, but I don't know if it's a.
I've never noticed it.
Are you getting?
Is it like
right
the
now?
Yeah, is it like the Rasheed Wallace? Oh, yeah.
Well,
let me like the Rasheed Wallace thing. Actually, this looks dyed.
I think it's dyed. I'm always benefited of the doubt guy, as I led with. Anyway, in this season, because it's grown out a bit, and he's sort of got like gravity's pulling it into dreads, or he's dreading it, or whatever the shit is. It looks like bird shit, bird poo. There's so many photos of him this season with the Bulls. And let me just back my Bulls. Oh, my God. Google Images is hopeless. Anyway, it looks like bird shit.
I mean, it might just be...
Well, it's not...
I know Rasheed Wallace had... what's it called? I can't even remember the word for it now. But Rasheed Wallace had, in the back of his hair, had like a little light patch.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Good on you, Patrick. Just rock it with confidence.
I got a good photo here, but anyway, maybe I'll put it here in the sort of feed or whatever. I'm looking at a photo right now of him guarding LeBron, and it looks like bird shit. It looks like a bird has shit in the top of his head. He's got
maybe it's for good luck, obviously. That's what he needs. That's why he's looking like Kawhi. That's
what he needs. And look, the Bulls are 4-7 as of right now, unless it hasn't been updated yet. They have played tough teams. They played just now the Clippers, the Lakers. They probably shouldn't have lost to the Kings. They played the Blazers, the Mavs, the Bucks, and in there also the Pacers and the Flying Hawks at the start of the season. So they have played good teams, but yeah, I hope that it looks like they look good. They look like up and coming. Zach LaVine is currently averaging. He's averaging 26 points per game. He just put up 45 against the Clippers. He's got a bunch of these 35 plus games.
Yeah.
40
he can play.
His last 5 games, 45, 38, 32, 18, and 39. Do you think that Zach LaVine, trained by our man Drew Hanlon, who came on the podcast a few weeks ago, do you think that Zach LaVine can affect winning basketball within the next...
he's already there.
2 years, yes? There?
Definitely. I've no doubt in my mind. And I hate this sort of... There are players in the league that will put up empty stats.
That's right.
But you go back to 2 or 3 seasons ago, and everyone's like, oh, Devin Booker is just an empty stats kind of guy. And it's like, at the end of the day, you got to realize that there's probably 5 guys in the league maybe that will carry an average team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
For the others, it's like They will do everything they can. They'll play well. They'll score their 26, but their team's just shit. And we saw that time and time again with Devin Booker. He was so heavily criticized. Like he was getting his own. It's like, he's putting out empty stats, but he's getting 27 points per game on an elite efficiency. And you're going to try and tell me he's not helping winning basketball. So I think Levine's in that situation where I know he was drafted to Minnesota and got traded, but if he was in Jaylen Brown's situation, for example, and if Jaylen was in Levine's situation, would there be that much of a difference? I know like their defense is, but their offensive game's not too dissimilar, really. So I don't know. That's my theory's always been that. It's just like
Jaylen Brown is...
You can't win everything by yourself.
Jaylen Brown is maybe the best example of the player to bring up in that conversation. If I ask you... No, I'm not going to put Jaylen Brown in it because you're a Celtics fan. But if I ask
Please don't, because I'll choose him no matter what the question is.
Who's better, Zach LaVine or Brandon Ingram? Right now, who are you choosing to be on your team?
Probably Ingram.
Wow.
But it's not by a lot. And this is like just from, I think Ingram had a great season last year and was really efficient. But I'm thinking his defense is improved every year, and now he's quite a capable defender, whereas LaVine isn't as such. And I think Ingram's the better passer of the two of them.
Yeah,
but there's not much separating them though in my mind.
Yeah, but that's that same category basically. Like it's so hard to tell because they're on losing teams.
Yeah.
Whereas you bring up Jaylen Brown, if they're in Jaylen Brown's position next to Jason Tatum and co, what are they doing? And you'd have to argue that they're not much different.
Yeah. It's like someone like Jamal Murray, who last season was pretty average. He didn't do anything really last season that was exceptional until the bubble.
Yeah.
And then everyone's rating him now as, one of the top 10 young players in the league that's, under 25 years old or whatever. And hypothetically, if LaVine was in that situation in the bubble and he had those 50-point playoff games, he'd be talked about in such a different light. But it's like, hang on, maybe Jokic is the common denominator here, or maybe it's just players get hot and when they're on national TV, you treat them differently. I just don't think being on a losing team means you're not contributing to winning basketball.
That's it. So I was going to dive into a bit of the Pelicans there, but quick word on the Pelicans. What have you thought so far? I haven't watched too much of them.
Neither.
They started pretty nicely and they've lost a couple of close games. However, as part of me being right, which I've loved, they are currently at 4-5. Yes, they're in the West, but this just goes to my point that I made in the predictions that I don't feel like they're ready yet, the Pelicans, Zion and Ingram and everything, to make the 8. And this looks great for me. The Suns are first in the West, 7-3.
I nailed that one.
I was saying,
what shirt are you wearing today?
Oh yeah, the Suns. The Suns are flying 7-3. The best record in the NBA with another team, 7-3. I don't know who that is. Sixers.
The Celtics at the moment.
The Celtics, Sixers, and the Lakers. Anyway, the Suns, man, and they're winning good games as well. They're beating good teams. The Suns, as I said, and Mikal Bridges had I think it might have been a career high yesterday, 35 or something like that.
I can't believe his improvement. He's phenomenal this season.
It's so simple, as I said on the predictions.
CP.
I will grant you that the Grizzlies' Ja Morant has been out for a couple of weeks now, and he will be out for at least like a couple of months with that sprained ankle. The Timberwolves have just got Cat back, so even though they've got no one aside from him,
so bad for Cat,
D'Lo, I will grant that the Kings have no excuse. God, they make me angry because I wish they were good. I like them. But overall, the Suns are taking that 8th spot. Denver and the Rockets are currently early season sitting out of the 8 right now. The Rockets have played no games. Denver and the Rockets are getting in there if Harden stays. The Suns are keeping that 8th spot, and it's cemented. The Spurs, OKC, Pelicans, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Kings aren't getting in there. I forgot where I was going with this, but
you just loving that Phoenix are doing well.
That's it. So Phoenix are killing it. Also,
you started with the Pelicans. What more thoughts on that?
Oh,
and then
yes.
You went on this big rant.
Just quickly on the Pelicans, because Morant's out. Cat's been out. Kings are shit. OKC and whatever. We may mention the Spurs later. What are your thoughts of the Pelicans just by looking at their record? You know, you might have watched a couple of games.
They're just
too young.
Partly that, but they just don't know how to play yet. It's part of it as well. No one really knows how to use Zion yet.
Yep.
And I don't think he knows how he wants to play in the NBA either. And especially where he doesn't have this jump shot that, that first game in his career where he hit 4 threes in the last 8 minutes, whatever it was. Since then, I don't know how many he's hit. But he looks like he's going to be a star, but he doesn't look like he's going to be the one that can take over games because he's not going to be the one bringing up the ball. He's always going to need a good point guard to get him the ball down low, which is kind of what Phoenix has done this year with Chris Paul. But that's how Ayton's games improved so much. Ingram is getting there, but still a while off. But outside of those two, it's kind of like an empty roster. We got Lonzo's improving, but still an average point guard at best. Steven Adams had his first triple-double, but he's not going to be there for when they're making deep playoff runs, he's going to be out by that stage. So I don't know. I think they're just in transition at the moment in terms of let's build what we've got. Let's work out how we want to play together, and then we'll put those pieces into play.
Yep. And I think it looks bright, and Ingram looks like he could be a great player, and of course Zion does as well. But I think there's a dangerous phenomenon that just being young, they're up and coming, and then they never come.
Yeah.
There is a bit of fear I have for this team happening with that. Yeah, they've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They've got Josh Hart. They've got all these draft picks, and maybe the draft picks will spring my whole point here. But I'm just scared that Zion and Ingram are as good as Wiggins and Cat, for example. Their ceiling is barely even making the playoffs. So interesting to see where that goes. Let's mention the San Antonio Spurs, who are 5-4, beat the Lakers the other day. It was a very nice win. DeJounte Murray. I had his stats up. What am I doing?
Having a jogger.
DeJounte Murray is averaging career highs in everything. 16 points compared to last season's 10. He's gone up 1 in assists. He's shooting nearly 50% from the field. And, not career highs in everything. But he's doing good. Career highs in points.
He's always shown flashes. And I think he's one of those players I've always known we're going to be good.
Yeah.
His defense is incredible. I think he made all-defensive team 2 years ago playing 21 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. He's got a feel for the game, a knack for the game. And I think, especially playing for the Spurs, they bring out the best in everyone.
And he's a good slasher. That's a good point. But yeah, his defense, and he's good at layups. His minutes have gone up so far this season by 7 minutes from 25 to 32. Hopefully he is a really good piece for the Spurs moving forward.
While we're on the Spurs, DeMar DeRozan is having a great year so far.
He's slamming at home.
He's averaging 21, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, playing at the power forward spot.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, how lucky is San Antonio that they've gone from the greatest power forward ever, arguably, in Tim Duncan, straight to DeMar DeRozan. So, Pop's coaching career is just based on DeMar being a gun.
That's it. So, what's your feeling with that? Is DeMar and Aldridge, who have both started nicely, are they still getting traded? Are the Spurs mailing it in?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they started all right. It's not in the Spurs' nature to make big trades, is it?
No.
But DeMar's actually seen he's almost shooting 40% from 3 on 2.6 attempts per game, which for him is just. I think that's why his offense has opened up so much. He's actually drawing a man to the corner. So I don't know what the Spurs are going to do. You never know with the Spurs because Pop he does Pop things. Have you watched many Spurs games at the moment?
I watched the Lakers one when
have you seen how good Pop looks in his tracksuit with his long hair?
With his long hair. Did you see see that photo of how high he jumped?
No.
Oh, there's a photo. Can't remember. I think it was against the Clippers. They've been in LA, and he jumps, yelling at the ref, of course, and he's jumped.
That's not unlike him.
Like higher than Zion. I'm gonna leave it at that. Higher than the Duke record of 40-inch vertical.
It's just raw athleticism.
Good old Pop. Yeah, I mean it's all fun and games, but personally, as a person who is championship or tank, got the Philly in my blood. It's all fun and games, but what's it even worth? And how long is Pop even? What's going on? I'd be looking to trade. Like their value's so high right now. Like do it now. Trade DeMar and Aldridge and get some real good young pieces or draft picks or whatever, because that's going to take the Spurs to their next championship.
They definitely are almost the perfect example of being stuck in no man's land at the moment.
Yeah.
Because you've got 2 aging veterans and quite a decent young core, and there's no one in between.
That's right. And let's not forget Paddy Mills.
Our mate.
Good on you, Paddy. How good are the Spurs commentators?
I love it. When it's the g'day, mate, and they can't even say g'day. They're like you. You can't say g'day properly.
I don't want to say it now, but every time he hits the 3, I'll say it. Good on you, Paddy.
Day, mate.
Good on you, Paddy.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
When you're a league pass man, you messaged me recently. You surely would choose the feed that you like the better commentators.
Oh, without a doubt.
We got to do like a 5-minute, 10-minute episode where we just go through the commentators.
Ranking the team's commentary.
There's some commentators that I'll just do everything to avoid.
I'm never listening to the Rockets or Utah commentators ever.
Yeah. They're both. Oh, I don't mind the Utah. They're all right. I love how the Utah play-by-play guy always calls them by first name. Donovan.
Yeah.
Here's Rudy. Here's Joe. Anyway, I'm not sure how many Utah Jazz fans we have as listeners, so we can't.
Hundreds of thousands.
We can't spend too much time on them. Moving on. Let's keep going. So DeJounte Murray, the Spurs are fun, but what are you doing? But they're fun. DeJounte Murray is good. Do we want to talk about Randall for 5 seconds?
Yeah, what the fuck is going on there? That's all. His major criticism for his entire career is that he can't pass, and he just tries to play bully ball. He just tries to take on everyone. And there was one play that came up on my feed, and I think it was what's his name? Austin Rivers' first game for New York. And he's standing wide open in the corner, and Randall drives in on 4 defenders and turns the ball over. I'm like, all right, he's had a hot start, but he's back. He's back to his old self. But once again, he's proved me wrong. He's averaging what, like 6-7 assists a game?
7.3 assists per game, which is 4 more than he's ever had.
He's got the ball in his hands. There was one play, I can't remember who it was against, but he got the rebound and took off in transition. I was like, shit, this kind of looks like LeBron. His athleticism has never been the question.
Yeah, he's a good player, man. And everyone knows you can't stop him if he goes to his left hand. Like, it's just an automatic. Everyone knows that. And when you have something that's unstoppable, should be a good player in the league.
So we've got the Kareem Skyhook, the Dirk fadeaway, the Dream Shake, and Julius Randle gone left.
And I said that I enjoyed him for 5 minutes playing fast pace under Gentry with AD. And, sometimes he would have to step out to the 3-point line, and that sort of expanded his game. He's currently averaging his highest ever from three, which is 36% on 4 attempts. For a power forward, he's doing everything.
Julio.
He's nearly shooting.
I can't believe it. I'm fully expecting regression to the mean very soon.
Yeah.
But I'm riding this wave as long as I can because I hate the Knicks, but it's fun when the Knicks are good.
I never hate a team that doesn't get in the way, and the Knicks have never been in the way, so I can't hate them yet. But 5-4, Randall's playing well. I hope for their sake that they can just do something because I'm sick of just nothing. I'm sick of not being able to even just think about them because they're just so hard to think about. But you're right. They're probably going to go back to their crap. Anyway, let's move on. It's worth mentioning that I'm thinking that this Bucks team is all right. I'm always slamming them, but I reckon they're really showing that they're a bit more built for the playoffs. I know we're having a weird season, but the Bucks starting their first 10 games 6-4 actually is a better positive for me than a negative because it shows that they're not just this team built for the regular season with tons of plastic depth. Drew Holiday, they set the record, 29 threes in a game against them. All that.
That was cooked. And the only player that didn't hit a three was their MVP.
Giannis. Giannis still looks the same, but overall, I'm interested to see what this Bucks team can be come playoff time, and they're starting five.
It's a classic case of you've lost depth, but you've gained star power.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, you'd prefer that.
That's right.
You don't need to be running your 10, 11-man lineups, which for some reason Coach Bud always seems to be wanting to do. You need to cut it down to 8, 9 men tops and just run with that. And I think that's what they're steering into that skid at the moment.
And in the 10 games to start the season, Chris Middleton's just up on his average of points per game by about 1 or 2. He's shooting 50% from 3 on 6 attempts. And he's also doing nice sharing the ball, 6 assists, which would be his highest ever. Middleton.
I can't believe how good he is.
Yeah, he's nice. He's just, I don't know. I just feel like, to quote Sixers podcaster Spike Eskin, if Chris Middleton is your second best player, are you winning the championship? And I don't know if you are, ever.
I think you couldn't.
Nah. No, you're not. Nah.
So, hypothetically, if you love Kawhi, if Kawhi and Middleton were playing together, there's no way you could say, they're not a championship contender.
As much as I love Kawhi. Oh, sorry.
If LeBron and Middleton were playing together,
sorry.
you'd be like, no. He's second best player.
No. Contender, yes. But the Bucks have been a contender. Anyway, this is a different season. But contender, yes. They're a contender. But
if your second best guy is averaging, 26, however many rebounds and 6 assists, that's arguably the best secondary piece you can have.
He's averaging 23.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's all right. It'll lift. It'll lift.
Anyway,
and he's a 50-40, 90 kind of guy.
You just look at
I'm
it, right?
all for it.
Like, just quickly on that point, you look at it. LeBron AD, Kyrie KD. This is why the Lakers, in a way, walk to the championship. LeBron AD, Kyrie. Did I say your version? Kyrie KD.
You didn't, but now you have.
Kyrie KD. If they didn't choke, unsustainable offensive numbers, Kawhi and PG. These are all better duos than Giannis and Chris Middleton.
For now.
They
are.
No,
I just think...
Who's better? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum or Giannis and Middleton?
Mate, why would you compare the best duo of all time to some scrubs?
There it is.
We're talking the only 2 players who could beat Jordan and Pippen. So...
Now I've got you. All right. So congratulations to Middleton for the start of the season. However, I'm more realistically excited about the Bucks because
I think as well, I think why I rate Middleton so highly is that whenever he plays the Celtics, he drops 40.
Oh, right. That'll hurt.
Like, there was that playoff series, I think it was 2018 off memory, 2017-18. And he just hit clutch three after clutch three. I think he averaged 29 points a game for the series, like 7 assists, shot 55% from three the entire 7-game series. So I'm just like, I'm so scarred by him that I rate him so highly.
It's just like Terry Rozier. If Terry Rozier comes to see the Sixers, we're having a bad night. Even though we beat the Hornets both times we played them so far this season, Rozier put up like 35. He's just too good against us. All right, let's keep going. Chris Middleton's been nice. I also want to give a shout out to Batum. I'm not going to look up his stats. However, he went from doing nothing at all to
he was a corpse.
Yeah, to starting on the Clippers because Marcus Morris has been out. And it's like he made a 4-point play on this Bulls game just before. He's doing his job. He's guarding and he's making threes, 3 and D. And I think
he can pass the ball as well.
I think Marcus Morris actually himself has sort of allowed him to continue getting good minutes, Batum, as while he's in this form. And then I think Marcus Morris is going to slowly take the spot. But that's good for the Clippers that he's actually a piece and not nothing.
Yeah.
Let's get on to your man, Christian Wood. Tell me about his beautiful start and how he used to be a Sixer.
That's why he's decent now. He's no longer playing for Philly. How many games was it? 17 total games for Philadelphia.
Oh, what a man.
Yeah, for 3.6 points of the game.
Take me back to the process.
For Detroit last year, the last 20 games, he was an all-star. He looked good. And everyone was like, oh, it's not sustainable. And then he's a free agent and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be most improved player. He's a gun. And I cracked it on the pod. I was like, I fucking hate when this happens. You talk him up when you're a chance to get him in free agency, but when he's playing for Detroit, you're criticizing him. But he has come out flying this season. He's averaging 23 and 11. Can't play defense to save himself. He's like, he reminds me, when you go to the footy or you go to any sporting event and you go through those turnstiles that have the 3 prongs and you press one and it sort of rolls forward. That's what he's like on defense. he just lets you roll through him.
His arms are just the turnstile.
Yeah. But on offense, he looks like AD.
Yeah, he's good.
Doesn't obviously have the full package like Davis does, but he can run the floor. He can shoot from outside. He can catch lobs. He can shoot mid-range. He can handle the ball a bit. He's not the worst passer. He just can't play defense. But overall, for a guy that has almost been out of the league 5 times, did you hear his story about draft day?
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't get drafted and his girlfriend broke up with him.
Yeah, so sad.
Just had everything against him. Got cut by Philly, cut by Charlotte. I think got traded by Charlotte maybe. Done to Milwaukee. They cut him. Looked all right for New Orleans for 8 games, but they cut him. He averaged 17 points a game for New Orleans, and they cut him.
Yeah.
Detroit last year finally made a name for himself, and here he is. So that's one of the better feel-good stories this season so far. So, yeah, fingers crossed he keeps that up, because if he keeps this level up, just increases the likelihood of Harden staying, I think.
That's right. So there's not much else to get to on the real must talk about. I want to talk about Trae Young and the Hawks. Trae Young. So the Hawks started in some fashion, top of the league, 5-1, 4-1, something like that. They are currently sitting 10th in the East, 4-5. And they have lost, let me get this up. They have lost. So they won their first. They started 4-1, and they have lost 4 in a row since then. To the Hornets twice, to the Knicks and the Cavs,
which are great teams.
And Bogdanovic has also just they announced he's suffered
he's done his knee,
fractured right knee, so that could be season maybe.
No, I think it's just a bone bruise, didn't they say?
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, that technically is a fracture, but I don't think it's like 6 to 8 weeks off, I think. But I'm no doctor, I'm no medical expert.
Anyway, their main guy, Trae Young, last season, let's just go his second season last season. I know he's fluctuating young players, but for a guy who's supposed to be really exciting, he started well. 29 points per game last season. He's currently averaging 24. Yes, he has more pieces, but still you're the guy. And here's the alarming part for me. The guy who hangs his hat on 3-point percentage, he's shooting less. So last season, he was averaging 9.5 attempts from 3 per game. And this season, he's averaging 5.6, and he's shooting 28%. Last season, he was shooting 36% on 10 threes per game. And I know you want to mention Steve Nash, blah, blah. Trae Young and the Hawks, but especially Trae Young, you got to get your shit together. It's time to get your shit together.
Yeah. How did he, the first 5 games he's averaging like 30. So he's just hit a big slump at the moment. And I think over the course of an 82 or 72 game season, there's going to be these slumps for any player. It just looks bad when it's early on because you look at their averages and they're way down, especially when you're losing games as well. So I think he'll get back to how he started the season. But with John Collins potentially being upset with how this team's playing, and now Bogdanovic is out, Radish is shooting the ball poorly, which is hurting me every game after my big hot take that he'd be better than Zion and RJ. But I think he'll be all right. But he's still in that category of not good enough to take your team to the playoffs, and still has a pretty poor team around him and will be criticized because of that.
Yeah.
And he's with the Levines, and he's with the Beals, and he's with the Karl Anthony Townses.
And because he's so bad on defense, unfortunately his size is a big factor of that. You can't be doing that. That's the difference maybe with Levine and Ingram, because I mean, I can't really think. I know Ingram's an all right defender, I think. But just straight out, their size helps to just stay in front of guys.
Definitely.
Trae Young literally has to get subbed off in late defensive possessions because he's that guy, just like Steph Curry. Unfortunately, I know they don't love the comparisons, those two, but they are so similar. He has to get subbed off for defensive possessions. You can't be having inefficient and big slumps, huge slumps. It can't go for too much longer if you're going to be the main guy on your team, and you can't slump like this offensively. So he has to get going. I also, on my front, I just want to say that I know that they're 5-4, but the Blazers, I seem to feel weird because they're 5-4, but the Blazers need to get going and Dame needs to get going. I know he had 39 points the other day, but their defense is still worrying. And I think Collins had to get surgery again, so he's going to be out for a bit. If they want to seriously contend, which they do, they keep adding these pieces. They got Covington this season and Derek Jones Jr. They need to start kicking into gear because they've got to be seriously fighting for that top 4. I know it's early season, but it's got to be said. Have you had any of these assessments about the Blazers?
The Blazers are the Blazers to me. I don't think they've changed in the last 4 seasons now.
Yeah,
they'll finish as a top. At best, they'll be a 3 seed. More likely, they're looking at the 6 seed, and they'll win games off the back of Dame and CJ, which still I think don't work well together.
Yeah,
I mean they work well enough to get them into the playoffs, and they might win a playoff series here or there. But CJ on his own would be so much better than he is. And I think, I don't know what trade could be possible because CJ's got a massive contract anyway. But I think this team could have such a better... I think the roster composition is quite poor at the moment. And if they did fully commit to Dame and put the right pieces around him, they'd be so much better. But they're just sort of stuck with what they've got at the moment. So I don't know. I think I get what you're saying, but saying it's just who the Blazers are at this point. They're not going to take that leap with with Dame and CJ leading the way.
Yep. And also, they've got their defensive problems, but as you're saying, it seems like for a while now, their offensive strategy or whatever the shit is just ISOs. Dame ISOs.
You take shot, I take a shot.
Yeah, Dame ISOs, CJ ISOs, and now even Nurkic ISOs, and it's just, you need to have a flowing offense. So I'm a bit worried about the Blazers, but overall, everything seems to be, fitting out the way I thought it would in the West. Did you want to comment on sort of anyone else? I know you probably want to talk about Jokic.
I always want to talk about Jokic. I feel so like he's playing some of the best basketball individually I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, he's great.
And there was a post on Reddit this morning that I saw that said, when Jokic is on the court, they're the second best team in the league. And when he's off the floor, they are the worst team in NBA history.
Wow.
So that's obviously a very small sample size, but it just goes to show how important he is to that team.
Yeah.
And how Murray and Porter Jr. still aren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
But their net rating with him off the court, so it's 15 minutes per game, they're at a negative 20.1 net rating. Jeez. The 2012 Bobcats and the 1993 Mavs had the record of negative 15.2. So they're well and truly over that.
Wow.
So over the course of an 82 season, it equates to about a 5-win, 77 loss season. So that's what Jokic is doing at the moment when he's on the floor compared to off. The one guy I really want to talk about is my pick for Rookie of the Year.
Oh, he's been great.
He's been incredible. Tyrese Halliburton, who I was hoping Boston would pick up, and I think he went one slot before Boston, maybe two, something like that, in the draft. But he's coming off the bench, playing point guard at 6'5", 12 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, but 5.5 assists, which is incredible for a guy that doesn't turn the ball. He turns the ball over once per game. He's already got one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the league. I just think he looks phenomenal. He's got this awful looking shot push looking put shot.
Yeah.
Shot put looking push shot, sorry. But yeah, he just gets the job done constantly. He's always there in the dying stage of games because they rely on him so much because he's such a good ball handler.
Yeah.
He's got the best offensive rating in the NBA at the moment, like 139. I don't know. I just think he's the real deal. He's not going to be a championship. He's not going to be an MVP sort of player. But he's going to be the guy that's... I'm just trying to think of a good example who he might be.
Well, if you're talking non-championship, like Tatum.
No, because I think... Fuck you. You want to talk about non-championships, mate. But he could be the kind of guy that on a championship-winning team, he's there as the third star that will get his 16 points quietly, but will just run the offense, is what I'm trying to get at.
He could even become the second, and one would, on a championship team, he could even become the second star. Very, very young career, but he's looking like one of the most real deals out of all the rookies right now. Like, he's making the big shots. He's affecting their winning. He's pretty much the most exciting thing in Sacramento at the moment. I don't know why De'Aaron Fox is not exciting. I know he pulled a hammy or something the other day or whatever, but yes, Halliburton has been awesome. So that's been awesome.
He's shooting 50% from three, and that was his major criticism coming into the draft, was that his shot wouldn't translate into the NBA.
Yeah.
Yet he's pulling logo threes in clutch situations and draining them. So I'm sold from his first 8 games. I'm sold, and I think he'll be around for a long time.
Anyway, I feel like we haven't touched enough on the whole COVID thing. Let's just mention it before we go. It just keeps layering on top of each other. So, as I said, the Celtics and the Heat game was postponed. The Sixers had to fucking play against Denver, even though we had 7 players. If you have less than 8 players, you must forfeit, or you have to forfeit. We have 7 players ready to play against Denver yesterday morning, and just so because they wouldn't let us postpone, we had to dress injured Mike Scott. He had to just get dressed, and then we played with 7 players.
Sit on the bench.
And we was essentially the process Sixers. I won't cry too much about it. COVID is really just getting started with the NBA, and I feel like the vaccine is going too slow in terms of the rollout. So I believe that I'm just guessing that it's not going to really affect the NBA.
Well, Adam Silver himself said we're not going to be getting it first. There's people that need it more than professional sports.
And that's good. That's good.
It's the right attitude. It sucks for NBA fans, but that's the right attitude.
That's right. Woj tweeted today that the NBA, because obviously people are starting to wonder, and he would have asked the question, the NBA is in no way considering pausing the league at this moment, even though games are getting postponed, players are missing, everyone's missing. Maxi Kleber and the Mavs facility's been shut down after a second positive test. The Sixers are riddled right now, and I can't think of anyone else. Houston have played barely any games. Where do you think this is heading, JL? Apart from a very frustrating season that's really
nervy,
pissing me off.
I don't know how much longer the season will carry on for at this stage.
And
it's too far out to do a bubble. So
it is too far out. But do they consider... Here's try and conjure up something in your mind right now. Do they consider something like this? And this is a shout out to all my old FIFA tournament mates. I used to organize and run 24-hour FIFA tournaments, right?
That sounds awful.
With the boys, 10 guys. It was the most grueling battle you'll ever do, and there was only ever 4 of them, and I won one of them. I mean, I won one of them. 24 hours, the game is continuously played, 10 guys, and it just continues to move. And the way I would set up the fixture so we could have some sleeping time is that I would set up into 2 groups, or let's call them 2 conferences, and then sort of one conference plays each other while the other one sleeps for 5 hours, and then vice versa. And then you have some cross-conference play in like a league season. Anyway, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Very proud of it. All organized by me. Do they consider something like chucking the Eastern Conference in the bubble, taking them out, chucking the Western Conference in the bubble? I don't know. And then maybe actually thinking about in some American sports, not every team plays every team. Do they consider scrapping cross-conference play and let's just bite the bullet for 1 year and then have the playoffs in the bubble as well?
It's what I've heard before they started the season, what all the rumors were sort of like, how will they do this if COVID breaks out between the players? And a lot of people sort of suggested doing bubbles for the 5 teams in each division, which would be difficult, but I think that'll work so much better for families where they're close by. They can, the families can stay with them for however long, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Doing a conference bubble kind of makes sense as well, but it's just like the players just don't want to do it again. LeBron said he was away. Was it 98 nights, I think, the Lakers had in the bubble. Yeah. Like, imagine that, but now you've got the entire season as well, bar 10 games. I don't know how it's going to work. I think the NBA is just going to play through it, and if teams miss out on players, they miss out on players because it's the only way they're still going to be able to play it each night.
Yeah. What about just simply playoffs in the bubble?
I think that'll happen again. The NBA is not admitting to it. They're obviously not planning for it either. But I think that's likely because how else can you do it?
I think
you can't risk LeBron getting sick game 1 of the eve of the game 1 of the NBA Finals.
That's it. So before they even conjured up that the season would start on you're someone there?
Yeah. Mum just walked in very confused.
So before they conjured up that the season would start on December 22, there was talk of them trying to start in like March because of hoping the vaccine would be rolled out. Yeah. So you've got this feeling that that's on their mind, and the NBA is actually
delaying the inevitable.
They're really hoping that a vaccine will be part of the happy end of this playoff season. But I would just say they should not be counting on it. And surely they're learning that. So if anything, I reckon they've got to be planning a playoffs bubble. Because as you said, you don't want LeBron catching COVID and then having to miss, 14 days?
Yeah. I don't know. I think no matter what the NBA is putting out at the moment, they'll be doing some little planning in the background. They've probably already spoken to Disney World, being like, just in case, keep it available.
Well, the G League's going to Disney World for the bubbles.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I've got to be honest with you. And also just quickly again, so all these things, the no crowd sucks. It does suck, like always, and the COVID sucks, and we've covered that now. But what's your take on this little series? I know they're doing it, so there's.
I think they're fun.
No, I hate it.
Really?
Classic.
Boston and Brooklyn have always done it. The last few years, we've always done a home and home where you flip it around the next night. I think it's fun for some reason. It's just a tiny little.
I hate it.
You get to feel the opposition out the first night, and then try something new the second night, and it's I know it means nothing ultimately, but I think it's great for teams in terms of playoff preparation where it's we lost because of this or we won because of this. They're going to counter with this. How do we do? I think that's really good for development for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's good for that, but I just think as a spectator, like for example, I know it's harder for teams on the East, good teams on the East, because it gets a bit boring playing the shit teams. But we had to play the Hornets 2 nights in a row, man. And I know everyone loves the mellow ball, but the way that the Sixers were playing, we were definitely going to win both of those games. And it's just okay, boring. Let's just give us Hornets and then, for example, the Nuggets the night before or the night after. Anyway, I'm not loving this whole series shit, but it is what it is.
You just can't be pleased, Nafe. That's the main takeaway from this.
Can't be pleased, mate. Anyway, we are so sorry that I didn't upload 2B after saying it was 2A. I will find a way to get that out some day eventually, or maybe it'll be lost in the. But it had some hot takes in there, so I'll find a way to get it out. JL, thank you for coming on. It is currently, what is the
11:58.
You got the degrees?
Oh, do you want the temperature? I'll whack on Bomb then, because if anyone uses any other weather app other than Bomb, not a fan.
Bureau of
Meteorology,
Melbourne. Meteorology.
Yeah, it's currently 33.3 with a max of 38. Do you want to whip that into Fahrenheit for me?
Well, it's currently 35 in where I am, Delahaye, and degrees Celsius, which is 94.
She's warm.
So it is a very hot day, and it gets super hot in my room. So thank you for coming on, JL, for this, and thank you for everyone listening. It's going to be a real exciting year. We're nearly at our 1-year anniversary, which is in about 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing for me? You taking me out?
I'll take you out for some nice apple pie and quiche. Yeah, so it's going to be a good year. We're going to be ramping up the YouTube, doing some little clips. I'm going to be, gun to JL's back, and I'm going to be forcing him to do some clips and some TikTok clips. And
oh no,
we're going viral, JL. We got to get viral. No. So all these little things. It's going to be a great year. Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year, 2021. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating or a review. It really helps the show. Press follow or subscribe, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. Just press that button. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. JL, thank you for coming on, and I hope there's some NBA to talk about next week.
Well, hopefully, because it's looking pretty dire at the moment.
I know. All right, I'll
speak to you soon, mate.